Just over 2 years ago, we got the original Scorp Mini, and at that time, it was a revolutionary gimbal because it was the first ultra compact one that could support a full frame camera setup. Here we are with the Scorp Mini 3 Pro now, and the original payload capacity of 2.64 pounds has grown to 4.4 pounds. In this video, I'm running through the features of this Mini 3 Pro and discussing my thoughts. For disclosure, Feiyu is sponsoring this video and they have sent me this gimbal free of charge. However, they will not see this video before it gets published, and being trustworthy is my top priority on this channel. No sponsorship has ever or will ever change that, so let's begin. In my mind, the big update with the Scorp Mini 3 Pro is the payload capacity. The heaviest camera setup that I've ever used on a gimbal is just over 3 pounds, and this can do 4.4. And again, this is very compact. It is the same payload capacity that you get with the DJI RS4 Mini. However, it comes in a smaller package, as you can see right here. This Mini 3 Pro, just like the original and the Mini 2, is a 4-in-1 gimbal according to marketing jargon, which simply means that you can use it with regular cameras, compact cameras, action cameras, and phones. In practical terms, some gimbals really struggle with lighter setups because they need the weight to offset the torque balance on the motors, but this gimbal is sensitive enough to handle your phone and powerful enough to handle a full frame setup. On the phone side, the kit that I got includes this phone holder that has two things that I want to point out. First is the fan. If your iPhone 14 overheats because Apple planned for it to overheat so that you are coerced into upgrading every 2 years, well, this little fan will help. I guess for external recording with newer phones that generate a lot of heat with ProRes formats, this is also a good idea as well. The second thing is this bracket rotates and locks into portrait orientation, just like this. No rebalancing necessary, so horizontal or vertical video is very easy. I just wish that it was as easy as this to switch from vertical to horizontal video with regular camera, but I'll talk about that here in a little bit. The Mini 3 Pro comes in a nice carrying case with a giant list of cables and accessories, including a little LED light that you can attach to the quarter 20 mount on the gimbal, action camera mounts, lens support brackets, everything you could ever want except for a manual focus puller system. This gimbal, like the Mini 2, has the buzzword of the decade, AI tracking, and I'm going to call this subject tracking. This new tracking system has a 40% wider view, and it allegedly tracks more quickly, more smoothly, and more accurately. More on that later. And then another interesting feature is a trickle-down feature from the Scorp Pro, and that is the detachable handle right here. So you can use this handle as a remote while recording yourself, or if you have the gimbal on a rig and you're sitting inside of a car that's moving, for example. There's multiple uses for a remote such as this. I say this in every gimbal video, none of the features really matter if it can't handle the basics well, and the basics being providing smooth video footage. So let's check out how this gimbal performs. For my setup, I'm using my FX30 and my Sony 16-55 G Master, but it's not a G Master, it's simply a G lens with a variable ND filter that's not on it at the moment. Altogether, this is just under 3 pounds of weight, so let's see how it does. Ready, set, go. Alright, after seeing footage like that, you might automatically think that this gimbal is amazing, and it is quite smooth, but using a gimbal is a combination of the gimbal's algorithms, the way that you walk, and your camera's stabilization. So in these samples, I was walking normally, not ninja walking like you're supposed to, but I also had stabilization turned on in camera. Without that enabled, here is what just the gimbal is doing. It doesn't look quite as good with no camera stabilization, or at least lens stabilization turned on. And this again can be mitigated somewhat by the way that you walk, but to get that truly fluid, smooth movement, you really need to get either a stabilized lens or have a camera with in-body image stabilization. To prove this point, here is what I would consider to be the most stable gimbal out there at the moment versus this Scorp Mini 3 Pro. Both camera setups have no stabilization enabled, and this is just the gimbal performance. And I'll let you guys judge for yourselves which gimbal is more stable. This is just walking, and towards the end you'll see a little bit of running. In my eyes, they are both equally smooth. That is, they both need camera or lens stabilization, or perhaps some stabilization in post. Now, I want to spend a little bit of time on the tracking aspect of this gimbal. It might be improved over the older models, and I do think that in terms of framing or composition of a subject in the frame, it is better. The early iterations of these gimbals would simply put your face in the middle of the frame, give you miles of headroom, and you couldn't really adjust it. With the DJI RS4 Mini, you can modify the composition, but with this one, you can't modify it as far as I can tell. But it did a good job framing my wife as she walked around, and all you have to do to enable this is show the gimbal the OK sign, and you are off. Now, it's not all roses and butterflies, however. This particular tracker seems to really need to see the face to track. If you turn your face to the side, or if you have something like hair obstruct your view, it kind of sort of just gives up. This was especially evident when I tried to do a 360 parallax or whatever the move is. It was a failure until I had Janessa rotate so that her face was towards me, at which point everything worked. Comparing this to the DJI RS4 Mini, which did the move easily without any issue, even when my subject had her back to the sensor. That's not to say this is a terrible system. It still works well when your subject is walking towards you, for example, as you can walk forward and not trip over things and let the gimbal track and maintain your composition. But the tracking is not as advanced as what you get with more expensive gimbals. And that's where you really have to temper your expectations. This is a very budget-friendly gimbal. The full kit with everything that I got is $299 US, but Feiyu Tech wanted to do a special discount for a few weeks. So if you use the coupon code Arthur, that brings this thing down to $254 US, or for the basic setup, it's only $228. That is roughly half the price of the DJI RS4 Mini. So there is a lot of value here. The build is great, a huge improvement over the first generation of this gimbal. Still plastic construction, but the grip handle is comfortable. The knobs, buttons, and switches are well placed. The menu interface is simple to navigate, more responsive than the older models, and all of the settings you need to adjust are in this menu without needing to connect to your phone. There is a row of LED indicator lights that give you some quick information at a glance, and all of the arms are metal and well finished. Balancing this gimbal is simple work in a matter of a few minutes. I only wish it had a quick release mechanism for the top plate for removing the camera. In this case, you do have to rebalance one axis every single time that you remove your camera, and switching to vertical is not difficult, but requires a few more steps than the simple switch of something like the RS4 Mini. Battery life is rated for 14 hours, which I didn't test because my arm would break. Charging takes all of 3 hours for a complete charge, so this could easily be a compact, lightweight gimbal for wedding video work, for example. Ultimately, this gimbal isn't revolutionary in its features and its specs, but it is a combination of all of the best bits from larger Feiyu Tech models and the modern intelligent tracking that everyone is talking about these days. And it is importantly smooth, as smooth in my eyes as my double-priced DJI. And the low price is really what makes this gimbal so compelling. Getting something this capable that can handle a 4.4 pound setup for around that $250 US price range is pretty incredible. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments section, and check out the links in the description. Use that coupon code for 15% off that I linked down below. Also, Feiyu Tech wanted to give away one of these gimbals to one of you, so leave a random comment, anything, whatever your thoughts are, what you had for breakfast this morning, I don't care, down in the comment section, and they are going to pick a winner and ship one of these gimbals directly to you. So thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.